Hello Year 11s. So today we're going to be looking at the second video in the excretory system, which is a subtopic of the topic organisms in Year 11 SACE. The last video I said there would only be 2 videos on the excretory system. This is actually video 2 of 3, meaning there will be 3 videos in this PowerPoint. Let's start. So today we're looking specifically at the nephron. So first of all, what we have here, just slightly covered by my face, is a nephron. So these are the exchange surface inside your kidneys. Now, there are some key things we're going to need to look at here. The first one is our glomerulus over here, which is basically a bed of capillaries. Now, this works through filtration via pressure. Now, you can see that we have an afferent arteriole and an efferent arteriole on either side here. Now, you notice the afferent arteriole is much thicker than the efferent arteriole on the coming out. So, blood's entering the nephron via the afferent arteriole, and it's entering quite large amounts, and it gets to the capillaries, but it can only slowly trickle out in the very narrow efferent arteriole. That leads to a buildup of pressure inside the capillaries, in the glomerulus, which is held by the Bowman's capsule. And because of the capillaries, and we know capillaries are 1 cell thick, and so is the nephron, the important material that we need to keep in our body, or get out of our body, material that we need to excrete from our body, is forced out of the capillaries via diffusion and into the Bowman's capsule and into the nephron, where we will get rid of them. Now that's all done because there's pores in the glomerulus, and that allows materials to pass through based on their size. Now, there are some diseases and some people that have damaged Bowman's capsules or glomerulus, and that's symptomized by blood in the urine, because blood is a large particle and then it can pass through the capillaries and enters your nephron and will be excreted in urine. So blood in your urine generally is a sign of a rupture in this capillary bed. The main things that are passed through into the Bowman's capsule from the glomerulus are going to include water, glucose, urea, amino acids that have been dissolved in water, and some other small substances. All of those are going to be filtered and collected together in what's called filtrate. So it's been filtered out of the blood. Blood and plasma are technically too large, and technically because of that, they can't be filtered through the small pores in the glomerulus. So all this material is now in our nephron, which is the blue diagram. I should have said that to start with. So obviously your red is going to be your blood vessels. So the filtrate is now in our nephron, and as it makes its way through the nephron, anything that's our body's going to deem useful and we shouldn't be getting rid of is reabsorbed back into the blood. So technically, almost always, glucose and amino acids are pulled back from the nephron into the blood because they are important. We can use both of those in our body. Glucose we can use for aerobic respiration, giving us energy. Amino acids we can be using to make protein. So we don't want to get rid of those unless it's absolutely necessary. So they are almost always pulled out of the filtrate inside the nephron, back into the blood and reabsorbed. We then continue to go through the nephron, and we'll get to the loop of Henle, which is this part over here where the mouse is going over, loop of Henle. And loop of Henle, if we need excess water or we need to make sure we're not losing too much water, water will be reabsorbed in the loop of Henle. If not, it'll just continue to go through the nephron. Then eventually make its way to the collecting duct, which will then make its way to leaving the body. So nephron is the key part of the kidneys, and most of that is all because of the glomerulus, which is kept inside the Bowman's capsule. Now, Bowman's capsule almost looks like, when you're remembering to draw this, Bowman's capsule is almost going to look like a baseball glove. It's a baseball glove holding the ball of capillaries inside them. That ball of capillaries, because of the increased pressure from the size difference of the arterioles, forces filtrate out of the blood, where it's reabsorbed into the Bowman's capsule, that moves through the nephron, getting ready to be filtered out of the body. As it passes through the tubule over here, glucose amino acids almost always reabsorb back into the blood because we need them. We don't want to get rid of them. And then we go through the loop of Henle, where if we need water to be retained in the blood, that's where it will be absorbed back into the blood, and eventually through the collecting duct where it will be removed. Now, these nephrons, there is over 1 million nephrons in each kidney. Now, we know that there is 2 kidneys in humans, so that's around or over 2 million nephrons in our bodies. The nephrons are controlled very finely through hormones, which are secreted from the pituitary gland and the kidneys themselves. So nephrons are all controlled via hormones. Urea is considered waste and will almost never be reabsorbed back into the blood. So don't worry, I know that's a lot of information to take in, but all of that is on this slide here, and obviously I've cut off the title there. That should say, how does the nephron work? I'm not going to spend too long reading this. In fact, I'm not going to read this. You're going to, if you want to note the information on this slide, just pause the video now and write that down. But all this information I've discussed when we were looking at the diagram here. So, moving on. Kidneys and the nephron. So, filtrate is the liquid that's been filtered by the kidneys. So that's anything that's gone through the nephron and we've reabsorbed everything you need. What's left is the filtrate. When we're looking at urea concentration of that filtrate, as we move from filtrate to urine, urea concentration increases. Now that's not because urea is increasing in quantity. That's because the water that we're pulling out of the filtrate and reabsorbing in the loop of Henle, that water that we're pulling back is removing the concentrated effect, or the diluted effect, leaving urea more concentrated. So urea is not increasing in quantity in the filtrate, it's removing water which is increasing the concentration of urea, and that leads to a high concentration of urea inside of urine. Your hypothalamus is monitoring the water level in your blood, and if the water levels are low, it will release a chemical called antidiuretic hormone, or ADH. That's released from the pituitary gland, and when that's released, that tells the nephron, absorb more water back into the blood. We don't want to lose the water, we need it. So if your water level is too high in your blood, your hypothalamus holds back. It doesn't release as much ADH, your nephron doesn't get that message, and the water just goes through the loop of Henle and excreted in urine. So nephrons and the amount of water that's going to be in urine is all controlled via ADH. Now you can tell, sounds disgusting, you can tell how much urine you're actually excreting in your body based on the colour of your urine. So if you've got lots of water and you're excreting lots of water in your urine because you're drinking too much, generally that's going to be because, generally you're going to see that because you've got very clear urine. If you've not been drinking enough and your blood's got lots of ADH in it, telling your nephron to reabsorb the water, you'll get very concentrated, dark, yellowish orange urine, which is a sign to drink more. Now, a good thing to talk about here is too, when you're dehydrated, you don't want to take a whole big jug of water and just drink it, because your body can only take so much at a time. Therefore, it's going to take the little bit that it needs and excrete the rest. You're better off, if you're dehydrated, drinking small amounts in broken up intervals. So that ends this second video. So in this second video, we've just looked at the nephron, what's happening in the nephron, and how the nephron works, and what filtrates are, etc. We'll go through this in class again as well, so don't worry too much, but please make sure you have these notes down.